Tyrese Haliburton, and you're listening to Setting the Pace.
Pacer Nation, we are going to have a fun episode today because Kent Sterling is joining me to talk about this Pacers team. We dive into a lot of Tyrese Haliburton conversation. I know he's not on the court this year, but we're going to talk about why his impact is so important to this team, which you guys already know about, but just what this team did with him on the floor and now what they're doing without him on the floor. We dive into all of that, how great of a player Pascal Siakam is and some other guys on this team, what the future could look like for them, talk about all that, and of course, we dive into, did the Pacers make a mistake by letting Myles Turner go? Kent gives his thoughts. We're going to have a fun one today. Let's get to it. What is up, Pacer Nation? Welcome back to another episode here of your go-to Pacers podcast, Setting the Pace. And joining me is a longtime guest of the show. It's been a while since we've talked, but he is coming back. It's been probably 3 or 4 years, actually. It's Kent Sterling. Kent, thanks so much for joining me. How you doing?
I'm good, Alex. How you doing? It's been a tumultuous 3 or 4 years for the Pacers, hasn't it been?
It definitely has been. I mean, we were talking about this team ad nauseum during COVID. I remember that. And we got to see the bubble Warren moment. Then we got to see the sweep in the playoffs. And then Nate McMillan was fired. Then they hired Nate Bjorkgren, and I remember us talking about what coach could they get, and we were talking about Mike D'Antoni as the future of this Pacers team as a head coach. They go with Nate Bjorkgren, and then a year later they hire Rick Carlisle. So I will start with you there because Rick Carlisle is such a fascinating human being, and then I think he's even more entertaining coach with just how he's able to find the roster that he has and bring it to life. Now this season it has been quite the adventure, but from what Rick Carlisle took over with in 2021 to what he took them to the finals last year, what makes him such a special coach?
I think it's kind of what you said. I think there are two things. That it's about taking the players that he's got and putting them in a position to succeed. And I think it's about him being insanely smart. I mean, as a human being, I think he could have been. There are a lot of coaches who really aren't very bright guys. They just happen to be very good coaches. He is a very smart guy. I think he's like a professional level pianist. I think he could have been a physician. He could have done anything he wanted. He just loves basketball, chose to be a coach, and he gets it in an insanely high level.
He's incredible. And I think one of the smartest things he did when he came back to Indiana was he said, this team has not got what it's going to take to make a deep playoff run. We got to start making some changes. And it seemed like he kind of pushed the front office into breaking up that Turner-Sabonis duo, and he targeted Tyrese Haliburton, somebody that he loved during that pre-draft process in 2020, and now look at this team where they're at with Tyrese Haliburton as a face of the league. So when you think about trades the Pacers have made in previous history, I know we talked a lot about the Oladipo and Sabonis trade for Paul George is probably one of the best trades in Pacers history. Yeah. Where would you put the Sabonis trade for Tyrese Haliburton?
You know what? I would say that that's one of those trades. It's almost a perfect trade because the Kings got what they wanted and Sabonis hasn't disappointed them. And Haliburton has been exactly what the Pacers needed and wanted. And so I think it wound up being really, really harmonious. It's one of those trades that everybody was happy with. And I think that that's the best kind of trade. You know, you can have the trades like there's a famous baseball trade where it was like Bob Buell for Lou Brock. The Cubs got Bob Buell and a couple other spare parts for Lou Brock, who hadn't become Lou Brock yet. And so everybody thinks that the Cubs got fleeced, and they did. That goes back to the 60s. But the best trades, I think, are the ones where both teams wind up prospering as a result. And while the Kings haven't prospered, it's not because Sabonis hadn't been any good.
Yeah, I mean, Sabonis has put up some really good numbers. I think that their roster construction around Sabonis and then having 4 point guards at one point, then trading all of them and not having anybody, then having to bring in Dennis Schroeder and Russell Westbrook, you know, that might be problematic. And it might not be a Sabonis problem. It might be a Kings management problem. But obviously Haliburton is this guy that might be the best playmaker at the point guard position in the league right now. And he just elevates the level of his teammates so much with what he's able to do. And he's not a me first guy. He's a team first guy. And you think about every team needs a 1-2 punch, and the Pacers go out and get Pascal Siakam. What has Pascal Siakam, in your eyes, meant to this team?
Holy moly, without Pascal Siakam, you don't win a game. right? I mean, that guy, his scoring is up. He's rebounding the ball a little bit. He's defending a little bit. He's playing good basketball, and it's not affecting him. Tyrese Haliburton getting hurt, I think, really negatively affected Nembhard. I thought that maybe this season Nembhard would kind of elevate his level of play, but I think he's kind of Haliburton dependent in a way that I really didn't anticipate. And Siakam hasn't been. Siakam's just gone about the business of being Pascal Siakam, putting the ball in the bucket in the way he can. And you kind of saw that last night, where when they needed a bucket, they went to Siakam late in the shot clock, and he's able to kind of hit those tough fades from 17, 18 feet, and he makes them like layups. He's just a really prodigious scorer from a lot of different levels. And right now, they need that more than anything.
I mean, and just with this year, with the season being 4-17 early on, I mean, what do you expect the team to do for the rest of the season? Obviously, there's still 75% of the games left to be played, but this team has dug themselves a pretty big hole. And like you said, a lot of these guys are Haliburton dependent, and they just can't be the best versions of themselves without him.
Well, I think they're going to get better because you're going to get Nesmith back at some point, and you're going to get Toppin back, I hope, maybe in February with that foot. And those guys being gone are almost as deleterious to the Pacers playing good basketball as Haliburton, but not quite, because now you've got guys. You've played 22 different guys this season already, and we're 21 games in. And that's just like you're relying on guys like Ray J. Dennis to play bulk minutes. You got Jarris Walker. What's he playing? Like 27, 28 minutes. That's way too many minutes for him. Like you can't flourish with Jarris Walker playing that kind of workload. And so guys like Toppin being out force Walker into a situation that he's not really prepared to handle. And at the center position, I really hoped that Wiseman was going to be okay.
Yeah.
Obviously wasn't. He's gone. And so you've got Huff and you've got Jackson, and you're hoping for the best, but you just don't. Like, they had depth last year. Now their depth is hurt, as well as Haliburton. McConnell being out for a while, Mathurin being out for a while. Like, none of this was good. You got guys scoring buckets where you're looking at them and you're saying, who the hell is this guy? Like, the other night I saw number 25 out there. I was like, who's he? Like, I don't know who that man is. And he's playing meaningful minutes, and that cannot be good for the franchise.
Yeah, Jeremiah Robinson Earl is who number 25 is.
That's him.
And it's just really funny because not only is he out there at times because Obi Toppin's hurt, you've got somebody on a 10-day hardship like Garrison Matthews out there with Jeremiah Robinson Earl, and it's like, why are these two in the same lineup together on the floor? And it's like, they signed Jeremiah Robinson Earl to that 15-man contract because they waived Monte Morris, and so they've just been kind of having like this retread of like, who's going to be the 15th man on our roster, and they keep signing these non-guaranteed deals that are 2 years long, and everybody's like, why are they 2 years? It's like, because if they can have another non-guaranteed contract going into next year, if it works out, it's not a bad thing to have. So these guys are just hoping and holding on to anything they can get, hoping they can play somewhere. And it's like, I get it. Jeremiah Robinson Earl has been okay defensively, but there was a time, Kent, on that West Coast road trip when they lost by an average of 25 points a game, where Jeremiah Robinson Earl was starting over Jarris Walker because Jarris Walker wasn't playing hard. And like, you talk about it, he's playing too many minutes, but when you've got a guy that's in his third year with a great opportunity in front of him, not starting because a guy on a 10-day hardship at the time is playing harder than you, to me, that's problematic.
I'll tell you this about life. Sports is a great analogous property for life. If you've got an opportunity and you can't gin up the energy to take advantage of that opportunity, or at least play to your potential, utilizing that opportunity, you got no business in the league, and you're going to be out of the league soon enough. You wake up in the morning with purpose. Go to work every day. Try to do your best. Stack days. People say it in sports all the time. Go out and stack days. And these guys who think they've made it because they've made it, they're not going to make it for long.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because just because you get drafted high does not mean that you will get guaranteed minutes, especially when you play for the Indiana Pacers and Rick Carlisle, because Rick Carlisle is not just giving you minutes And this is a conversation. I pre-recorded this episode earlier today. It's going to release on Friday, but I want to get your thoughts on it because right now the Pacers are, I think, the third worst record in the NBA. And so a lot of people are getting excited about a draft pick and things like that. So if they were to stay in this same spot and get a high draft pick, you look at this team with Haliburton coming back, Nembhard and Nesmith, assuming they're going to keep their starting spot at the 2 and the 3 with Siakam at the 4. That is where the big prospects are at that 2, 3, 4 spot. So if the Pacers were to land a top 4 pick and draft someone at those positions, do you think they come off the bench or do you think they start?
Given all the guys who are scheduled to be back with their contracts, I think it's damn likely they would come off the bench.
Yeah.
At least initially. And I think they come off the bench. If you've got a top 4 pick, you're taking a one and done kid who's 19 years old, and they're just not ready. Most of these guys aren't physically mature enough to be able to handle 82 games at 30 minutes a night playing against grown-ass men.
Yeah, and that's even if they are super talented. Like, we're not talking like a Wemby level talent in this draft. We're talking about, guys around that Cooper flag range, right? And Cooper, like, he's had his ups and downs already because they're asking him to do so much in Dallas, and this is why Dallas obviously is struggling so much. And then they obviously don't have Kyrie, and Anthony Davis has been out of the lineup, but they're just a hot mess since they traded Luka Doncic. But I think to me, it's like Rick Carlisle is not just going to give a rookie a starter's minutes after this team just went to the finals 2 years ago, and they earned that, and he knows what he's going to get from them, especially on the defensive side of things.
But I'll tell you what, one caveat to that, the Boozer kid's going to come into the NBA ready to play.
Yeah.
Like that, his dad knows what it takes. That kid's been preparing for this opportunity his entire life. What he's done at Duke to this point shows a guy who may come into the league ready to take on starters minutes. But, that he's going to have to earn it, and that's, that remains to be seen.
Well, what's really interesting is him and Pascal would be at that 4 spot, and it's kind of like, can Boozer play the 5, or can the Pacers slide Pascal up to the 3 and then play Boozer at the 4 at times? I think that there could be some interesting lineup combinations there, but I can't imagine Boozer starting over Siakam.
No, but you can figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, he's skilled enough with the ball. Siakam is big enough. You can figure out how to play kind of a small version of positionless basketball and get some things done. I love the way I saw Boozer play up at Hamilton Southeastern in a high school event. I was like, oh, geez, holy cow.
Yeah.
And I saw the Spears kid, Marcus Spears' son. Mm-hmm. Like, what a stud that guy's going to be. Saw the kid who's at IU, Trent Sisley, who's playing great basketball. He's going to be a pro. He's got all it takes to be a pro. He's not going to be a pro next year, but that kid's going to be a pro eventually and be a productive one.
Have you had a chance to watch much of North Carolina this year?
No, little bit.
All? Okay. I watched on Thanksgiving when they played Michigan State, and Michigan State ran away with that game there, but I really like Caleb Wilson. I think that this is a talent for sure that could, be a very nice fit for the Pacers because he just plays, and I've been using the word Rick Carlisle loves to use, with so much force. And he just wants to rip the rim off every single time he drives to the basket, which I think that's fun to me. I like seeing guys that have that kind of intensity about them. And I think after watching Jarris Walker kind of have that ebb and flow of like, some days I'm going to be really forceful, other days I'm going to be nonchalant and like jog back on defense and throw a loose pass. I want someone that's going to just give it to me 110% all the time. And one of the players on this Pacers team that does that is Quentin Jackson. And I know he's on a 2-way deal, but this is a guy to me that I don't know what his future holds here with the Pacers, but I would not be disappointed if they brought him in on a standard contract because I think he has talent to be a third-string point guard in this league and kind of just muck it up every once in a while, especially if you're needing some guard depth.
And if you look at a guy like TJ McConnell talking about effort, that's a guy without great effort going 100% flat out every single second he's on the floor, working at the game every single second he's off the floor. Without that, he's not in the league. Without that, he's working. He's a welder, for God's sake. He's not playing basketball except on weekends for fun. But he brings effort. And I don't know how you could be on the same team with a guy like McConnell and not then understand the value of hard work and the necessity for hard work, because hard work plays always in any business. You work hard, you earn the trust of your manager, whether it's a coach in athletics, whether it's a manager in media, or whatever you're doing. Hard work counts. And if you're not going to bring that every single day, you're not going to earn your position, and eventually people are going to figure out you're not capable of it.
I want to transition now to the center position. You kind of talked about it earlier, but right now the Pacers are floating out Jay Huff in the starting five, Isaiah Jackson sprinkled in there. And then if those two guys don't have it that night, here comes old reliable Tony Bradley. What are your thoughts on the Pacers center by committee rotation? And in addition to that, Myles Turner, his departure. What were your thoughts on him leaving and the Pacers not offering him the contract that Milwaukee did?
I thought it was a net gain. And I thought that Jay Huff was going to come in and play to the level of Myles Turner. And I know they're playing on different teams, and so it's not apples to apples necessarily. But you look at the 36 minutes, those guys, their numbers are almost identical. And I thought that starting Jay Huff against the Chicago Bulls, I thought that was inspired, at least for the first 2.5 minutes of the game when he scored 14 points. I tweeted, he's on his way to 180. Jay Huff hit everything.
Everything.
And he leads the NBA in blocks. Everybody's like, oh, you're going to lose the rim protection of Myles Turner. If that's your calling card, good luck in Milwaukee and enjoy that $27 million a year for the next 4 years. Why they would go that deep into their pocket to reward that level of basketball, I have no idea. He always looked like he had more fun when he was hurt and supporting people off the bench than he looked when he was playing. And if you're happier not playing than you're playing, you got a problem. I knew, and we've had this conversation a million times, I have it in my head. I dream this conversation in my head. I've had it so many times. But Myles Turner is a guy, when I interviewed him, he's drafted, he comes out to the Pacers golf outing. And so, like, the media's there, and so I did a one-on-one with him, and I said, what are your goals in the league? Thinking that this nice softball first question where he could say, I want to win multiple NBA championships or something like that. He said, I want to make enough money in the NBA that I can be the CEO of my own company one day. And I just stared at him, and I thought, my God, we've got a future businessman here who's just going to try to bilk as much money as he can out of these teams so he can do what he wants to do. Basketball's a means to an end for him. It's not his love, and you can't win with a guy like that.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously Milwaukee is finding that out for themselves as he is their $50 million, prize possession after they have to waive and stretch Damian Lillard for the next 4 years or 5 years for $20 million a year. And Myles Turner's making around 27, 28. So $50 million essentially per year to have Myles Turner on your roster with a 15% trade kicker. And the guy's stats have plummeted to what they look like when he was a rookie. And honestly, this team has lost 8 of their last 9 games with their lone win coming against the lowly Brooklyn Nets. This is a Milwaukee team that is just falling apart in front of us. And yes, Giannis was hurt for about 65-70% of those games. But after they lost to the Wizards last night, I don't know if you saw this or not, but Giannis Antetokounmpo went through and deleted every single tweet that he had going back to 2021 when they won a championship, which is where the Milwaukee Bucks fans live at because they can't think about the last 4 years because that doesn't exist to them. But he also deleted everything on his Instagram except for them winning the finals and then winning the NBA Cup last year. So I just think that if the Bucks, if Giannis asks out, I mean, do you think that grass is going to be greener wherever Myles Turner goes, or do you think that he's going to be wishing he was still back with Tyrese Haliburton and the Pacers?
I genuinely don't think he cares as long as that money keeps coming in. Yeah. And one thing that I'm really happy about is that all the Milwaukee fans, all the Wisconsin people on Twitter or on X and on social media have shut the hell up. They were loudmouths before the season. I don't hear a peep out of those people anymore. They used to fill my timeline with junk about Myles Turner. I'm not hearing so much of it anymore.
I think they enjoy taking Myles away from the Pacers. I don't think they've enjoyed having to watch Myles Turner play basketball every single night. And look, I will say this. I have had Myles on this podcast. I have talked to Myles. He is a very nice guy.
Yep.
I have nothing against him, but I've always thought he's a little bit cheesy, and I've always felt that the way he responds to things is a little bit over dramatic. Like, you remember that game, I'm sure, when he comes back to the field house and they boo him out the gym and he does the whole closing the book thing in his little pregame video they shared for him and acted all tough. And then a couple days later, they're playing the Bulls or something. And they said, "What'd you think about the cup court?" He said, "Oh, at least it wasn't yellow." Like, he just constantly like tries to make these comments in the media to keep him relevant. And what I've been telling people, which I'm curious your thoughts, I think the only reason he even says stuff about the Pacers is because this is the only time people have ever actually cared about him. And this is the first time we've seen in the last 10 years where people actually care about Myles Turner.
I agree 100%. I think it's all media driven to brand himself somehow and raise his brand value. And that why would you listen to him in any other context?
Yeah.
What would be gained by hearing him say anything if it wasn't related to some kind of a drama that he himself kind of created? Who in their right mind? I didn't understand the video. I don't understand why they made a video. When did he win a championship? I must have slept through that. At what point did he become that kind of important player that you've got to produce a video and honor the guy, knowing, unless it was done for this reason, knowing that the fans are going to go haywire and they're going to boo him loudly as this thing is playing? They had to know that that was going to happen. Did they think that people were going to stand and cheer like he's some conquering hero who's come home to, throw, baubles to the fans? It's craziness. If the Pacers would have kept him, it would have cost him $47 million in real money, because you would have gone into the luxury tax. So not only are you going to have to pay a significant amount into the luxury tax, you lose the amount of the luxury tax rebate that you get for being under the luxury tax. That takes that deal to like $45 to $47 million. I get 20, and it is, my throat collapses on itself as I say it. But $47 million for a stand in the corner and shoot the occasional three, and a guy who blocks 1.7 shots a game, no thank you.
Yeah, and doesn't rebound the basketball. Like, you left that part of him.
And he still doesn't. He's still a 12-6 guy.
I know, and that was so funny. There was a Bucks podcast. They're like, "I don't know what's wrong with our rebounding numbers." Well, I could tell you why. I mean, I watched it in Indiana. Look at where Indiana was at rebounding-wise for the past 10 years when Myles was on the roster. And that was even with a guy like Sabonis. It's just, this guy doesn't like physicality. This guy is a finesse player. And I remember there was somebody I heard say that at one point that Myles Turner was the most athletic player on the Pacers, and I about laughed out loud. I said, "Most athletic? This guy can barely win a jump ball."
And watching him run from one end of the floor to the other was painful.
Yeah,
like you know that at age 45, both those hips are going to be replaced.
Yeah. I mean, he looks like he's in pain a lot of the time.
Yeah,
and I don't know, like, he gets the occasional, running start dunk that looks pretty fun on a highlight reel, but other than that, like, if he's not hitting his threes, he doesn't really provide a lot to your team. And last year I was really bought into Myles Turner because I thought, he was just the perfect fifth guy for this roster with how they were playing. But then you watch him in the NBA Finals and really the Eastern Conference Finals, you couldn't play him. I mean, you think about that Game 6 the Pacers win in the Eastern Conference Finals. If they don't have Thomas Bryant, they don't win that game. Thomas Bryant comes in and hits, 3 corner threes? And completely just changes the game, while Myles sits there and watches while the other guys that they brought in to kind of carry him to this championship for his first time ever as a Pacer. Like, that to me was symptomatic of what was going to happen. And then the fact that the Pacers let Thomas Bryant walk in free agency was a little bit surprising to me. I think keeping Tony Bradley, I know he had a better finals performance than Thomas Bryant, but for how the Pacers like to play on the regular season games, to me, Thomas Bryant fits your system way more.
I agree skill-wise. I think that I've always, and maybe this is me with an IU kind of bent, where I remember Thomas Bryant when he played at Indiana, and he was not the most mature college basketball player emotionally that Indiana's ever had. And I think that emotional immaturity is something that maybe didn't vibe here at like hey, we want you to come back and be a part of what we do for a long time type level. Yeah,
maybe so. And I just like Thomas Bryant. I think he's a fun guy to watch. I think he's hilarious. And I love the energy. I felt like at times they were missing that this season, right? They needed someone to just get mad and kind of have that emotional immaturity, because at times, like, when you're losing this many games in a row and nobody's everyone just hanging their head. Like, I want someone to get mad. I don't know how you feel about that, but I'm sitting here watching. I'm like, when are they going to have a players only meeting? Like, these guys, I know they're dealing with a lot of injuries, but like every time Rick goes, we got to keep staying positive. I'm like, how can you stay positive when you've lost the last 6 games by 25 plus points? Like, when do you start ripping guys? I mean, it feels like to me, like you got to start chewing some butts out here versus, oh, well, we just got to keep moving on. We had some positive things that happened there in the first quarter, even though, second quarter came along and we got outscored by 25. I mean, to me, I don't understand that dynamic of just trying to keep everything positive.
I think that they've looked at this season since Haliburton tore his Achilles as kind of a lost year where they're going to have to get Tyrese healthy again and then wait for all those stars to align in 2026-27, really make some kind of a deal, some kind of a run. And I don't think that Carlisle wants to, I don't think he wants to spend the equity he's got with these guys to win 25 games instead of 20 games. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like the high end for this team as it's currently constituted is not way up here. It's a lottery team. It's just a matter of where they fall in the lottery. And I think so. All attention is on building this thing for next year.
Okay, I'm gonna finish this interview with you here with 3 questions. So I just want to get your thoughts. Where do you predict the Pacers end up? You said lottery, but I'm curious. Do you think it's more top 4, or you think it's more in that 5 to 8 range?
I think it's more 5 to 8, maybe even a little south of that, maybe 10.
Oh wow! So you think they get that many wins?
I think they could. I think once they get guys healthy around the All-Star break, I think this is an okay team. I thought that this was a 500 team.
Yeah.
Without Haliburton, but with everybody else. And I think they can be that. So if they go into the All-Star break, which is what, at like game 50, and they go 16-16 coming home after winning, I think they could win 28 games. I think that's possible. 20, maybe that sounds outrageous as I've watched them like their last 6 games, and I can't stand it. I'm like, like you, I'm like, where's the heart? Like this team last year was defined by joy. Like there was a joyfulness in the way they played. There is no joy to Andrew Nembhard, especially now at all. He doesn't look like he's having any fun on any night, and that's death for a point guard.
Why do you think that is? I mean, this is not part of my questions, but it's a good point you bring up because I've noticed the same thing. It looks like he's almost going through the motions. Yeah,
it does. And it does with other guys as well. You really don't see that. There's not that spark. There's not that thing. There is no joy on this team. I think it's that they knew coming in their best player was gone and that they were going to have real trouble finding a way towards success given Tyrese Haliburton being out for the entire season. But I have heard that he's working and he's working well. And I heard from somebody who knows that he's at least dunking. I don't know what that means. I don't know how he's dunking, but they say he's dunking. And so that tendon is knit and he's building the calves back and the quads and the hamstrings. And, hopefully next year he's back to being Tyrese.
They're going to need it because without him, it's obvious that this is a guy that probably should be like a top 5 MVP candidate because of how bad this team looks without him, right?
100%.
It's crazy to me. I mean, it's not a Myles Turner, subtraction. It's a Tyrese subtraction because just imagine the numbers Jay Huff and Isaiah Jackson would be putting up if Tyrese was out there on the floor for 32 minutes a night. It would be a lot different, and they'd be getting a lot better looks. But
Jay Huff would be an all-star.
Hey, let's speak it into existence. I mean, the fans are here for the Hufflepuff himself, so I'm here for it too. Now, speaking of Tyrese Haliburton, this is a question I ask everybody: if he stays healthy for Game 7 against the Thunder, are the Pacers hoisting that trophy?
They win.
Yeah.
Given that start, they win. Yep.
That's exactly what I said. Obviously Thunder fans are like, oh, quit crying. You never would have won anyway. I'm like, I don't know. Haliburton playing like that, it felt different. It felt like we're about to win this game. And then when he went down, it's just like the entire energy from the game just sucked out from both sides too. I think it really just like the most anticlimactic way to finish a 7-game series. Because that was a very fun series in my opinion. I don't know what you thought about it, but I thought the most part that was incredible. Like just back and forth between both teams.
Well, the entire playoff run was crazy. I mean, I've watched, I can't tell you how many thousands of basketball games I've watched in my life. I have seen in a game, somebody hit the cradle, have the ball go straight up and then threw the bucket. I've seen it happen twice. And that was the third time. And it put them into that sent them into overtime, right? We thought it was a three. Yeah. And then there were other shots that were just magical. It was just a beautiful run. You don't see that kind of thing happen very often. I really think that they'd have found a way to win it because they had figured out a way to beat the Bucks, beat the Cavs, beat the Knicks. When even with the Bucks, we had home court in that, right?
Yeah, we won game 5 on the game winner.
That I thought that we shouldn't be necessarily favorites in that series because they got Giannis.
Yeah.
And then they win that series. They go out and they beat the Cavs. And granted, the Cavs had some injury issues. And then they beat the Knicks. And I thought, all right, you know what? If they believe, and if they believe, why am I not going to believe? And they take the Thunder to 7. And I really did. When Haliburton got hot early, I thought, holy hell, they're going to win this title.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt too. I was like, oh my God, Haliburton's on fire. He said 3 threes. Like, what's going on? Like, he is coming out aggressive. The moment he tore his Achilles, I was like, it's over. I think everybody knew, like, there was still a chance, like, they could have done something. That third quarter absolutely killed them. They just came out so flat. And that's how they've looked all season long. It's kind of reflected what we've seen from Andrew Nembhard in that group. They just seem like they don't have it. Siakam's doing his thing as much as he can. And then, of course, Mathurin, we saw Mathurin in that fourth quarter of Game 7 kind of go off and kind of find his moments. And he's doing that this year as well. I mean, it's been a little bit more inconsistent as of late, but ever since the beginning of the year, he's in a contract year as well. So playing.
Let me ask you about that. Do you think they extend him?
Good question. I think they're going to have to make a decision at some point, and I think that this draft pick coming up is going to play a huge part in that.
Oh, that's interesting. If they move up in the lottery,
if they can get their hands on DeBonsa or a Wilson or even a Darren Peterson, somebody that's at that same position, you've already got Johnny Furphy, who Rick Carlisle has said that he loves, and I mean, Rick Carlisle never says he loves rookies or young players. And he probably will be coming back soon. I know he's listed as questionable, and usually that means that they're going to be able to play in that game. So I like Mathurin a lot. I can't imagine them paying him what he wants to get paid and then starting him over Nesmith. That to me is the big question. Does he make starter level money and still come off the bench? That's the really big debate you have to come up with. And I don't really want to get rid of Mathurin, but I think this could be your best trade asset potentially to go out there and address your center position.
You know what? He's got some crazy in him, though.
Yeah.
And this team needs a little bit of crazy, just like the team, 10 years ago needed Lance for a little bit of crazy. I mean, Mathurin's not Lance level crazy, but he's got that look in his eye, that glint in his eye, that you don't know what's going down from 1 minute to the next necessarily. And I think that kind of spontaneity can be kind of a good thing for a team. I like a little bit of crazy.
I do too, and I think that he's a lot of bit different than what they normally have out there with their group of guys. Like Nembhard's not a natural scorer, Nesmith's not a natural scorer. It's Haliburton really is not a natural scorer. He does it because he's good at it, but he'd rather pass the ball. Mathurin come out there and get you 10 points in 5 minutes if you just let him cook. And I think we've seen him get better at being more of a Carlisle system player, but at the same time, like, I wish they would just kind of let him loose a little bit and just say, go be a scorer, because he's so good at it and he's really good at drawing fouls. And sometimes the fit with him and Haliburton hasn't been great. But as far as I know, he wants to be here, long term. Nembhard's like his best friend. It's just a matter of, will the Pacers pay him, go into the luxury tax? And there's a lot of teams that have a lot of money. And I mean, if you're looking at like the Nets, they're desperate for talent. The Clippers, they're going to have like $50 million in cap space. If they go out there and offer him an offer sheet for like 30-some million, are the Pacers really going to match it? That's going to be the big question.
And what's the market going to be at the deadline for a guy like Mathurin? You know what I mean?
I think it could be pretty high.
Yeah.
Depending on who out there is looking for somebody, because he's still a relatively cheap contract right now. And you know you'll have his bird rights heading into the offseason if you want to bring him back. So if there is a team desperate to go out there and get him, like I've looked at Memphis as a team potentially, just because I think they need some help at that position. If they're kind of floating between like playing or what, you trade them west, maybe you get one of their draft picks, because they have, I think, 2 picks right now in the first round. If you're looking at getting some draft capital, but talent-wise, I mean, who do you want back in a deal? Like, that's the big question, right? Like, I think you really need to get a center back. You're not getting Zach Edey or Jaren Jackson Jr. back from Mathurin, so that's kind of out of the equation. But Who knows? I mean, there's a lot of people out there that just love Mathurin. They don't want to see him go, and I get it. But I also think they can't let what happened with Myles Turner, where you lose him for nothing, happen once again.
In Memphis, they're full up on crazy. Like they don't need crazy.
Well, if they get rid of Jaw, they might. If they get rid of Jaw, they might need some crazy. So my last question for you. This is more of a fun question. If you were to combine the Indiana Hoosiers football team and basketball team, who gets more wins this season? IU Sports or the Pacers?
Oh, IU Sports.
Okay.
I think you're going to wind up. IU is going to have, I got to believe on the low side, they're going to have 13 wins. And I think that IU is going to win somewhere 20-23. So that puts them like 33-36. And there is no way, none, that the Pacers win 33-36 games.
Okay. Well, you said they could be.
I like that one.
You said they could be the 10 seed. So I know you mentioned 28 wins, but I'm thinking to myself, could the Pacers get up that high? I don't think they will, nor do I think they should. I think we should maybe see some, sore calves for Pascal the last couple of weeks of basketball when there's a little bit, like meaningless games. And we saw them do this back in the 2002 year where they had George Hill and they lost 10 straight games. But it's just one of those things where I'm like, I hate rooting for losses this early in the season, but if they lose games, I'm like, I'm not mad about it.
And people who say that they're going to tank, there's no tank.
No.
Like there's Rick Carlisle doesn't wake up in the morning thinking, how can I lose this game tomorrow night against the Denver Nuggets? He's going to lose it anyway. He doesn't need to think about that one. But that game against the Bulls coming up, they've got some other games that are potentially winnable in the near future. So I think he wants to win. These guys hate losing like we hate hunger. Yeah. Winning sustains them and not losing sustains them. There's no way that Carlisle is going to be happy after a loss, no matter what lottery pick they get and where it takes them.
Right. And to me, it establishes a bad culture. You don't want to have a culture of losing, right? Especially after you just came off of this incredible culture you built of being a championship level team. Now you got to balance both of like, okay, we were a championship level team, now taking a gap year, if that's what you want to call it. And all of a sudden, you start creating these bad habits of like, well, we're going to lose tonight, so it doesn't really matter. It's like, that's not what a championship team does. And I think Tyrese will hold guys more accountable when he's back on the floor, just because that's the kind of leader he is. But, I mentioned Thomas Bryant not having that, that spirit out there on the court. But Tyrese Haliburton plays with a lot of spirit, a lot of emotion. And you saw, I don't know if you watched the Starting Five documentary or not with Tyrese in it or not, but on Netflix. But you could just tell, like, when he was going through it the first 25 games of the season, when he was just not looking like himself, talked about stepping away potentially from the game of basketball to help the team be better. Like, that's where he was at mentally. And he just, could not stop showing frustration on the court. And I think it was just seeping over into everybody's morale. And now he's always trying to be Mr. Happy-Go-Lucky, which that's a lot of pressure to put on one guy. And so I just think he carries that so well, though. I mean, he is born to be a leader. And we've seen that with a lot of Pacers guys like Paul George. Not meant to be a leader. Tyrese Haliburton, he's got those qualities.
No, and I love the other night, not to go in another direction, but the 76ers the other night with George and Embiid back on the floor together. Like I see a SportsCenter clip. They were back on I knew they lost. As soon as they introduced the clip, I was like, they're going to show us all these clips of Embiid and George doing these things. And at the end, it's going to be, the Hawks won by 4 or whoever they played. You knew that was going to be the case because that's what Paul George does.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. And that's why every team he leaves ends up getting better. So it's kind of weird how that works, but a talented player, but man, oh man, not the type of
legacy. How many championship level teams has he launched by leaving them?
Yeah, Pacers, Thunder, Clippers. Yeah. I don't know about that one, but once he gets traded from the Sixers, watch out. That could be in the Eastern Conference Finals with Tyrese Maxey. So, Kent, this has been a lot of fun. Where can people find all your great work at?
Oh, go to YouTube and just go to the search bar and search Kent Sterling. We do videos every day and have a great time. And that's what it's about. It's about sports. It's about enthusiasm and having some fun watching the Colts, the Hoosiers, the Pacers, Bulldogs. We talk about them all.
Absolutely. And so Kent and I will probably be back at some point later this season to talk about this team. And maybe we'll even dive into what Myles Turner is up to now. It could be horseback riding. It could be more Lego building. We don't know yet, but we know it will probably not be leading the Milwaukee Bucks to any Eastern Conference championship. So Kent, thank you so much for coming on. Do it again soon, and I hope you have a good night.
Thanks, Alex. You too.